Good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. My name is Dale Parrish. I'm the host of COS Indiana Live. And with me this evening is, of course, my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Dale. How you doing?
Good, good. Ken is our state communications coordinator, and Ken will be monitoring the comments and questions from our viewers this evening. So if you are viewing through Facebook or our YouTube channel, feel free to submit a question or comment, and Ken will take a look at it and let us know if we need to address it. So Ken will be busy in the background watching our viewer comments and questions. Ken, this is broadcast number 253, and you've been on board for 116. So those numbers just they go up every week, don't they? As a matter of fact.
Let's hope they do, yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to go up every week. If we're lucky, they do. Well, listen, Ken, take a little time here, if you would, please, and tell everybody what that QR code's about up there.
Certainly. That QR code right up there is a way to subscribe to COS IL. IL, it is IL. It's a way to get subscribed to our channel, and basically it's just a way to give us some support. And with that, we give you a platform with a number of series of videos, both instructional, educational, and so on and so forth. Great place to show us your support and get some information and some stuff that's behind the scenes that nobody else gets to see.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're trying to load it up for our subscribers. We've got a number of series going on, and we're trying to get those all together in sets so our subscribers will have access to those forever, really. So if you're not a subscriber, we would certainly love to have you become one. So thank you very much, Ken.
Yep.
Ken, normally we take a little time to talk about the national debt clock, but we're going to skip over that tonight because I want to give our state director some time to give us an update on how we are doing here and how we did for the month of June. We normally get him on a little earlier than this, but this time we had to, as the schedule worked out, we had to put him off a week. So I want to bring him on. Ken, we want to try and get him on as soon as possible. And do whatever we can to accommodate his needs and so forth and so.
You mean earn brownie points, Dale?
I guess that's what I mean. Yeah, that's probably what I mean.
So understands.
Okay, don't tell him we said anything like this. All right.
No, I won't do that.
Okay. Hello, Dale.
Greetings, gentlemen, and might I just say that's some of the finest sucking up I've heard in some time.
You probably have heard a lot, haven't you? So.
That was good. That was good.
Well, Dale, give us a rundown on how things shaped up. As you know, in June, as far as views are concerned for COS Indiana Live, that was a banner. New record-breaking month for us. So,
yep, I've got you at 118,544 views,
yes,
which eclipsed the prior record by 106,185.
I'm glad somebody did the math.
So that's a pretty significant increase.
That's a tad bit larger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm thinking a great goal for you would be 250,000 next.
Sounds impressive.
We'll see. We'll see. That would be great.
So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and then we're at petition signers. We're at 66,338. And at total supporters, we're at 70,255. So that number
finally over that 70,000 mark. Good.
Yeah, that number continues to climb as well. I also wanted to make note that during the month of June that Michael Gibson a district captain over in the Fort Wayne area received a Patriot pin for his outstanding work that he's doing over there.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, he's doing a good job. Doing a good job for us.
So we also have a thing that's going on called there's a meeting in Texas in September where grassroots volunteers are going to have the opportunity to act as commissioners in another mini simulated convention. In the past, it's just been legislators that have primarily been involved. And this time they're going directly to the grassroots, people that are just volunteers within our organizations, to give them a chance. And so Marty Wood and Dan Stock are in the queue to go to that mid-September. That's at the Patriot Academy campus in Comfort, Texas.
That ought to be that ought to be exciting to see, and I'm sure there'll be video and so forth. So Ken, we want to make it a point to get our hands on some of the video from that. So.
Apparently, for part of their training purposes, they have a room set up there, legislative chamber.
Oh.
And so these guys will be sitting in there just like they would at somebody's House of Representatives, meeting
Really?
place or whatever. So yeah, I think the Patriot Academy is making a first class place out
Now
of
this
there.
is Rick Green's organization, right?
That is correct.
Patriot Academy.
Yeah.
Putting this on.
America's Constitution coach, as he calls himself.
You said Comfort, Texas?
Comfort, Texas.
Where about in Texas is that located?
I think they said it's adjacent to Fredericksburg, Texas.
All right, keep going.
That's about all I can tell you. I don't know exactly where that is.
All right.
But we're in the process of trying to raise money for them, and there's some links floating around where you can donate to help send these gentlemen. This is a combination effort to train the grassroots and also to raise some money for Convention of States. This being an election year, of course, everybody's trying to raise money. And another thing I'll just say for the sake of breaking news, everybody may be aware that J.D. Vance has been picked by President Trump to be his running mate, a senator from Ohio, and Senator Vance is also now a formal signed supporter of the Convention of States program. Great. So it's nice to have a V POTUS that's supporting us. So that's kind of cool. A fairly high-ranking guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the highlights for now, Dale. Obviously, as we talked about before the program started, with the events of this week and the assassination attempt on President Trump and things, the local things that we're doing don't have quite the luster with all the concerns going on in the country. But it's still nice to touch base with you guys and let you know that these numbers basically indicate we're in the fight. We've got volunteers that are out there working, and there is no other option besides the Convention of States to promote structural change in the country. So it's a fight worth digging in for.
All right, good. Well, Dale, thank you very much for coming on.
You bet.
And I take back everything I've said about you. So
very nice opening too, I'll say. I like the new opening that you guys put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job, Ken.
Thank you.
Yeah,
looks right.
Good. Yeah, that's Ken's work. All right, Dale. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ken, I want to get into our first segment, our first guest this evening. Now we've this is a recorded interview that I did last week, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Back in February, Ken, if you remember, we did a program. I think we did the entire program on an organization here in Indiana called Safe Haven Baby Boxes.
Remember that well? Yep.
Remember that well. And you, one of their, this is where they put they put a box, a specially designed box at primarily fire stations, and where newborn babies can be deposited, where the mother or the couple have decided not, to not take control of the baby or be the parents of the baby. So rather than abort, this is an option for them to give their baby up. So, and one of their outstanding locations was in Carmel, Indiana. And you actually went down and interviewed the fire chief down there.
Yep,
two of them, yes, and did an excellent interview with them. And they were, you could tell they were very energetic about this project and about what they're doing. And of course, I say they started here in Indiana, and they're now all across the country. I don't know how many boxes they're up to right now at this point in time. But what I thought was, well, what happens to these babies? Once the baby's deposited and the mother releases control, what happens? What happens to the babies? Obviously, there's an adoption process that takes place, and that's a good thing. And we certainly want to support that. I think obviously we want to see more of this as an option to abortion, and that is adopting these children. Well, I went out and I went in search for some people that are involved in the adoption process. It was a bit of an educational experience for me.
They all seem to be, Dale.
Anymore, yes. And I still haven't. I still don't feel I have a grasp upon the process, because it's involved. It can take different avenues and involve different organizations. And one of those organizations, of course, is the state. And this is where the government influence comes into play.
I see.
And that's what, of course, that's one of our main concerns, is the government influence on this process. So I found two organizations, and I sat down and we recorded about a 30-minute interview with these two individuals. And I'll be introducing them in the recording, so we'll be going back over some of this. But one's a young lady named Jordan Beck, and her involvement is more from the financial part. The other person is a Darren Washhauser, and his group is more on the other side of training and preparing the young people to become adoptive parents. So like I said, I was able to sit down and talk to each of these individuals. We'll show their organizations, the agencies that they represent, and Ken has put links to their websites in the chat if anyone's interested. And again, I'll mention this in the recording. But I wanted to take a little time to kind of set the stage, Ken, so that our viewers know why we're doing this and what it's all about. So
sure, good thing.
So let's go ahead and get started, okay?
Yep.
Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, Convention of States, Indiana Live. As you've probably heard me mention previous to this, that about a couple months ago here on COS Indiana Live, we interviewed an organization called Safe Haven Baby Boxes. And this is an organization that originated here in Indiana, but it has gone national now, so it's all over the country. But basically, they are involved in rescuing babies by placing baby boxes, literally placing baby boxes at, for the most part, fire stations. So I won't go into great detail on that, but It's just a wonderful service, we feel, for the unfortunate young ladies or young couples, you might want to also say, that have decided that they no longer want the baby, or they don't want to take control of the baby. And instead of aborting, they have chosen to drop off the child to one of these baby boxes. And the safe haven baby boxes, then the fire station takes possession of that baby, and so on and so forth. Take it to the hospital and care for it. What we wanted to do was we wanted to then delve into what the process then happens. What is the process, as best we can understand, to adopting these children? Because we believe that that's important, and we believe in Convention of States that adoption is a very, very important, obviously, and a very important option to abortion. So this recording, this interview that we're about to do, what we've done is we've brought in two individuals representing organizations that are involved to some extent in the process of finding an adoptive care home for children that have been deposited into these baby boxes. Now, these organizations also serve many other needs, foster care and so forth, but we're focusing strictly on adoption at this point in our process here. So I want to bring on our guests this evening and introduce you to them and their organizations. Let them kind of explain what they do in the process. They've been trying to educate me on what this process all involves, and I'm struggling with it, quite honestly. I can't imagine being a young couple, especially a young couple that's just trying to enter this process. It's got to be very confusing and frustrating to them, I would think. And I would think also that these two individuals and their organizations could play an important role in helping that couple. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest this evening. And the first one I'm going to bring on is Darren Washhagen. Excuse me, Darren. Hi, Darren.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Now, Darren represents a group called Orphan Care Alliance. And Darren, where tell everybody where you're located, a little bit about what you do in general, and before I bring on the other guest here.
Sure. So we are based in Kentucky, and we serve all of Kentucky, and then we serve 5 states in southern Indiana. If you know the southern Indiana or the Indiana foster care system, it would be Department of Children's Services, Region 18. 5 counties. So we're kind of over there too. And the different things that we do, the 3 main services that we offer are, there's ministry areas, but what the first one would be, if you're a foster or adoptive family and you choose to bring a foster child into your home or an adoptive child, we provide family support for that family in some of the challenges that they may encounter. The next area is for kids that are in care. A lot of times after the age of 12, it's very rare for kids to be adopted at that age and up to 18. So we start life coaching or mentoring those kids and put a trusted adult in their life to journey with them, because they a lot of times are a lack of family or other adults that they can trust. The third area is family preservation. And here we are trying to work with biological parents to help them with challenges in their lives to keep their kids from being taken from them and put into foster care in the first place. So that's the main 3 areas that we use and throughout the 2 states.
All right. Thank you, Darren.
Mm-hmm.
let me give you Darren's website address, orphancarealliance.org. We'll put this address in the chat section for viewers to copy and paste. So that is his organization's website. Okay. Let me bring on my next guest, and this is Jordan Beck. Hello, Jordan.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Jordan, by the way, is getting married August 3rd. I just want to just mention that.
Thank you.
I just like to see her giggle over that. So anyway, but so we're getting her before her wedding. I know she wasn't going to be available after her wedding for a while. So anyway, Jordan represents an organization called We Care for Orphans Adoption Fund. So Jordan, just briefly, what is your organization about?
Yeah, well, thank you again for connecting with me, and I'm really excited to be on here and connect with you as well, Darren. So our organization was actually founded by my parents, Scott and Chantel Beck, back in 2011, after they had adopted my younger sister from Ukraine. And through that process, they kind of realized the financial burden that a lot of couples face in the adoption process, with both domestic and international adoption ranging from $35,000 to $70,000. It's an extreme cost that can seem unbearable, but yet there's over 153 million orphans in the world. And the fact that couples are taking it on themselves to carry the burden of orphans is something that we want to be part of and we want to be helping with. So we do that by acting as a resource for those couples. So they can go onto our website and see an application where they can download that application and fill it out and send it to an organization that we partner with who does all of the vetting process for us. And then we then supply funding. So we currently support 2 couples a month in their adoption process, with the amounts ranging between $2,000 to $5,000.
Okay. Well, 153 million orphans that's worldwide, right?
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, Jordan's organization also, of course, has a website, and this is their address, wecarefororphansfund.org. So Jordan's group deals with the money, and as she just explained, that can be a very, very significant amount of money. So I'm going to back up and turn it over to Darren again here. So Darren, we want to take our example of the babies that have been a baby's been deposited in a safe haven baby box. The fire department has secured the baby and has taken it to the hospital. And can you kind of give us a little scenario as to what happens from that point?
Sure. So in general, what will happen there is once, the baby's probably, like you said, taken from the fire department to the hospital, and I'm sure the baby's been checked out. Usually social services in Indiana, the Department of Children's Services would be called to say that they have this baby. And the baby, at least at that point, would go into the custody of the state under DCS. And their job is to find housing for this baby. So already what the state is always doing is looking for foster parents. And some of them might be called foster parents. Some of them would be called foster to adopt parents. So it's a very explicit, thing that happens in the foster care training, is that it's clear. It's supposed to be clear to all foster parents that the primary objective is to bring children back to their biological family. But in the case of, a baby in a baby box, or maybe where parents aren't going to be able to be identified, or, a judge makes other decisions, then they are available for adoption. So it's explained to these foster parents about that.
Now, it is my understanding when it comes on the safe haven baby boxes that the mother has relinquished control.
Right.
I'm not using the proper term. Or
Yeah. What it normally means is that probably is a part of that baby box, she is giving up her parental rights.
yes, that's what I was trying to say.
So it's her parental rights are being given up along with that going to the baby box. So in that case, this baby is needing an immediate home that might be a foster home. Preferably, it would be a home that's foster with a desire to adopt.
Okay.
So then the state will then look at their resource of families who've been approved through all of the adoption process, from everything from an introductory meeting to usually somewhere between 15 and 30 hours of training, background checks, home studies. And when they're done with that, they're now approved foster parents. So they're on this waiting list, and then the social worker will match that baby to a foster family.
Now, has the state done that vetting process, that training, that
Yeah.
background check? The state has performed that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the state has done that because if a family chooses, there's multiple routes, and maybe Jordan can cover some of that a little bit. But if the family chooses to adopt through the state, that would be the process, and they would have to become approved foster parents by the state in order for the state to place a baby in their home.
Okay, now,
or any child for that matter.
You're saying with the state, so there could be another route that they could go through another agency, another.
On the baby, once that relinquish of term parental rights is done, it's going to be through Indiana for that particular baby box baby.
All right.
But if a mom is in the hospital saying, maybe she has the baby and says, I don't feel like I can adequately care for this baby, I'd like to put the baby up for adoption, and I want to work with this agency to do that, then it would be going down the route of more of what Jordan's talking about. Or maybe she finds out she's pregnant and she hasn't had the baby yet and says, okay, I'm going to carry this baby to term versus an abortion, but I'm not going to be able to care for the baby. That would be a place where, Jordan can speak to kind of how that process goes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, I'll come back to you now. Jordan, is your group involved in this as yet?
Yeah. So we help couples all the time who are going through domestic adoptions where the mother has decided to give her baby up for adoption. So we've been able to support lots of couples in that process.
Okay. Now, obviously, you would require financial information, I would assume, on this couple, or.
Yeah, so we have an application that then they download. They fill that out and they send it to our partner organization, who does all of the back end vetting process. And our partner organization then sends us family recommendations. So then that's who we would supply funding to. And a lot of times in cases with domestic adoption where the birth mother has decided to give up her child, during that process leading up to the actual birth, the couple who's intending on adopting the child is then responsible for all of the birth mother's expenses. So a lot of times, sometimes our funding can be used to help cover those expenses, or really whatever the adoptive couple is needing at that time.
Jordan, do you typically provide a lump sum of money, or is it so much a month, or how do you normally do that?
Yeah, so we offer matching grants or interest-free loans. And with the matching grants, those are paid out as the family raises the funding. Sometimes they don't need all of the funding that we provided, or they don't match it to the full. So really whatever support they're able to raise is kind of how we pay that out to them.
Okay. Very interesting. And how long has your organization been in existence?
Since 2011.
2011. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. All right, Darren, now back to you.
Okay.
Now tell me what you're providing this couple in the way of coaching or training or so forth.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think where we've been is that we, you know, if a couple has wanted to become a foster parent, like if they choose that route, we can offer the training for that. You know, that's been in Kentucky. We were allowed by the state to provide that training, and then once we do the training, they do a lot of the final work of background checks, home studies, and all that to make them approved. But once we get to know them through that training, we also say, hey, you know, a lot of people feel like, you know, adoption's over when the child comes home, and in our experience, guys, that's when the journey really begins, because this child comes from trauma, comes from maybe some things in their life that, you know, are not so good. And so they usually come with, you know, some different kinds of challenges that are different and unique to a family that's maybe raised their biological children. And so they have to learn to parent differently. They run into unique things that they haven't seen. And we are very versed in a lot of that, whether it's trauma training for those parents or whether it's new services that might be needed for these children. Even to some degree, sometimes the services are for the biological children because they're having trouble adjusting to this new child coming into their home. And so, you know, it looks great until you're in it, and then you're in it, and sometimes it's not as great as you envisioned it being. And so different people need support, and the families certainly need support. And so they can come to us, and we have, you know, a plethora of that. You know, we may help with equine, you know, therapy, or maybe it's a music therapy for that child, or maybe it's some sort of occupational therapy. Maybe there's some things about, you know, that a lot of times we try to focus where insurances won't, you know, won't cover things. But there's just different things that you run into in the journey of raising children who've been in foster care or just through the adoption process. You know, there's a loss for every one of those children and for their biological parents, because that's how God built us. And so they have to come through that loss and understand that they have value in God's eyes. So,
Darren, how long have you been doing this?
Well, my wife and I work on this together, and we entered, you know, a very small grassroots ministry in 2008. And then somehow quickly, it's a little bit of a joke, but somehow quickly I became this leader. And in 2009, we became a 501c3. And so we've been in it since the end of 2008.
Okay.
And it had started just the same way that Jordan described about the life song. That's where OCA started in 2005. So we did that focused for about 3 years. We still offer that, but we expanded into a lot of other things. So,
well, I was thinking maybe you had been involved in this for 25 years, but
15.
The question I want to ask is, what have you seen? What have you seen happen? What changes have you seen over the years in your dealings? Any special things that pop out as different today than that was 10 years ago, or type of thing?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll try and kind of list those through. So when we
only have so much time.
I know. That's why I'm thinking, because I can get into, each one of these could be 2 hours. So
yeah.
No, just quickly. I mean, I think, you know, both where Jordan's organization and I started with OCA, when the church got involved in this movement, I think they felt that all the kids that needed help were international adoption kids, that only third world countries had problems where kids needed homes. By the time we got to about 2010 or so, we started to realize that these same kids are in our own backyards, only we kind of mask it over. We don't call them orphans in the United States. You know, we call them by different names, and they stay in really nice places. Like in Kentucky, it's Boys Haven, you know, Sunrise Children's Services. You know, that they're it's nothing against them, but it's just we've created these names, and it's almost like they're hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
They're along the interstates. There's these organizations, and you don't even realize that they're basically an orphanage. It's how they would be identified in any other country. So that's where it started. And then they realized we had these children, and it's like, well, these children have been treated badly. We need to help these children. And then we started realizing, well, when families get these children, they need a lot of help because there's different challenges and there's all kinds of things that go on. And then the state, at some point realized, geez, the church can help us in this matter because, we're trying to protect these kids, but there's a lot of other services we can't do. And so we as a ministry started to walk really closely with the church, especially around 2015, and doing some pretty major things, working with them. And they even today still depend on us for different things, especially where it's preventing kids from coming into care. But I think that the thing that's kind of changed, with the COVID piece and all that is, there's the unfortunate things from a I guess from a Christian perspective is that, 1 in 3 kids in institutional foster living may identify as a gender different than they were born. And they're a little bit lost there about where that is.
Yeah.
And so there's been more of that challenge, that's a much higher ratio than kids that are just, raised in families.
Yeah.
And then there's, different things that are wanting to be taught to foster parents that sort of run against our Christian grain. They want us to start talking about, the different types of pronouns and the different things in the trainings,
Right.
which is, has made us stop training because it doesn't run with our belief system. And we certainly can't, be training that belief system. In the federal government level, there's been also some things passed that say that if you don't support that for a child, that you're wrong and that you're not considered a good foster home for kids that want to believe that they're of a different gender than they were born.
Right.
So there's been some unfortunate change that way that's made it a little bit harder for the Christian organizations to participate in where there's so much need. And so that's the unfortunate part.
Just for everybody's information, if you haven't already caught on to it, both of these organizations are Christian-based organizations. So just to get that out there. Jordan, anything from your end that you have noticed changed over time?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. So I started serving as chairman for this organization in 2021. So I'm actually pretty new at this. Obviously, my parents have been in it much longer, and they still actively serve on the committee with us. But from my end, I think it's been a lot of learning along the way, just learning about all of the different services that we can provide and where families are at and the struggles that they face, and hearing their stories and seeing how we can be there for them on an even greater scale into the future. So that's kind of what I would have to say.
Okay.
Dale, I would also throw out there on that, over time, it like the amount of international adoptions especially has went way down. It's just become harder overall for various reasons. Countries have closed, and some of the different, world regulations around adoption have become more difficult. And so there's just not as much of it, and it seems kind of counterintuitive that there's so much need, but the process, at least internationally, has gotten a lot more difficult.
Is that true? And I'm kind of surprised to hear that, but internationally, it has become more. Do you see that, Jordan? I mean, is that?
I have heard statistics about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say we were probably, I don't know, Jordan, if you're hitting that like 2 a month kind of a goal right now, but we have seemed to have dropped from around 30 a year adoptions that we supported in the same way down to maybe under 10. So about a third as much as we were in 2012 through 2016 or so.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. One of the COS people that I know very well, a couple, they adopted some Chinese children. Now, of course, this was, I don't know how many years ago, probably at least 10 years ago and maybe longer. But one of the reasons I asked him, why did you choose to adopt Chinese children? And one of his reasons was it was easier.
Mm-hmm.
The process was easier. Now, evidently, that has changed since then, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more, like I said, it's more due to, like, health organization kinds of things and stuff like that, and just some of the international laws. Some of the countries close on their own. They just close themselves to adoption.
Yeah.
So it just seems to have run itself through a bit, and it's just harder in general. And I'm not sure. I would have to check if the national our government's tax credit stuff is still in place. At one point, there was a tax credit opportunity through the federal government, and I'm actually lost every year that was subject to renewal, and I've actually lost track of whether it's still in place.
Jordan, I think, isn't that mentioned on your website about tax credit?
Yes, because 100% with donating to a nonprofit, you can get a tax credit for that donation. Yeah.
Oh, for the donation purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, for the donation purposes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, guys, our time's about up. We need to wrap this up, and I want to thank you for what you do on behalf of these children. Because I certainly hope every baby that's dropped off at a Safe Haven baby box, I truly hope that they find a loving home to live in our here in our country, because I think certainly that is definitely an answer to the abortion issue. Certainly one answer to the abortion issue in our country. So each of you, if you want to take a few seconds to kind of wrap up, go right ahead. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. Darren, you got any final words?
No, just I think my final word would just be to be aware of kids that are in foster care in your community and advocate for them. They are very, very voiceless in this world of things. They don't have many to speak up for them. And even small things like mentoring or whatever, that if it's in our region of Indiana, we'd be happy to hear from you. But mentoring children, or visiting these places where children are kept, or supporting the foster families that are bringing in children is so important, because they need the help. They don't often want to admit to it, but they need it. And you can do small things, cut the lawn for them while they're taking the kid to a therapy session, or do some things like that. Is very helpful. So be aware of them. Be aware of the needs of both the families and the children, and see if you can find a place there.
Excellent. Jordan, any final words from you?
Yeah, I just want to thank you again for allowing the opportunity to be on here. And also just want to encourage our viewers, if you haven't gone to theaters to see the movie, The Sound of Hope, it's the story of Possum Trot. My fiance and I just went to see it last week, and gives a lot of insight into the reality of what it's like to be a foster child, and to also be a foster family, and to adopt those children into your homes. And so just encourage to be educated on what's going on in the world, and how we can be available to help assist those in need.
What's the name of that movie? Is it Sound of Hope?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion, Jordan. That's excellent. That's a very good way to get the picture.
Thank you.
Good.
It was a really good movie. So
we'll stress that definitely. Thank you all both for giving us this time this evening, and enjoyed having you. And we'll have you back again. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Dale, unmute yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be heard. So.
All right. I remember to do it. Well, do you understand all that now, Ken?
I understand it's complicated. That's all I know.
It is. Yes. 153 million orphans across this world. Isn't that something?
There's so much that has to be done in our world. It really.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got to look into that movie Sound of Hope have you heard of that movie before?
I'm gonna have to look it up. Yep. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Sound of Hope. So very good. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I really enjoyed interviewing the two, enjoyed talking to them, and hopefully that gave a little bit of information to everyone with regard to the adoption process. So
Sure enough, we need more people like them.
yeah. Okay, well, let's start wrapping up. Ken, let's talk about what's coming up here on COS Indiana Live. And our next broadcast, which will be next Monday evening, is our roundtable, which once a month we change the format around. Our host for the roundtable is John Ackerman, and John conducts a panel discussion on a particular topic. And this month, we're going to talk about liberty wins at the Supreme Court. So that'll be very, very interesting. I think, obviously, some big decisions just recently came down from the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And I think be very interesting to talk about that, discuss that. So that's coming up next Monday evening. Roundtable, same time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Now, I want to tell everybody what we got brewing here for July 29th. And we're still in the process of working this out and working our way through this. But we're going to start a new series. It's called Pillars of Freedom with a young lady by the name of Wendy Olson. Now, Wendy Olson, a former Convention of States district captain, located in Alabama, and she has a few years ago dedicated herself to becoming an advocate for January 6th individuals that were involved in the January 6th occurrence at our state capital, or our country's capital, on January 6th. So we refer to that as J6, of course. And Wendy has made connections with numerous prisoners, current J6 prisoners, as well as J6 people that have been are no longer in prison, or perhaps were given punishment in some other way. But she has a number of stories to tell us, and so we're going to let her do that in the form of a new series. And as I said, it's called Pillars of Freedom with Wendy Olson. And the very first one that we're going to do is we're going to do an interview, record an interview with a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Brown, and he is currently a J6 prisoner in Florida. So we're trying to work this out. They don't allow visual, so it'll be an audio recording only. But we're gonna have to go through a third party to get this done, Ken. So it's gonna be a trick to pull this off. But and he can only I've talked to him one time so far. He can only talk for 15 minutes. Then he has to hang up and call back again to get another 15 minutes. So, but anyway, Jeremy Brown, a veteran, 20-year retired Army veteran, Special Forces Green Beret, and this poor guy got caught up in this J6 event. So he's got a story to tell.
He does, yeah.
We're going to try our best to hear his story. So that's what's coming up on July 29th, if it all pans out, if we can get it done. Okay. So also want to mention we've got is episode 15, our podcast that we did with Tim Heidenreich. We got that published as yet, Ken?
Should be out this week.
This week, okay. episode 15 with Tim Heidenreich, our prayer coordinator for the state of Indiana. Tim's got a very interesting background. I think you'll all find that interview very, very interesting. So, I also want to mention that if anyone has any comments or questions that you have for tonight's broadcast that haven't been able to log in, if you think of it after our broadcast is over, feel free to shoot us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So what we'll do here, Ken, is we'll wrap up our program with another installment from John Ackerman on COS Basics. And this one is entitled, this is episode number 9, Why Call a Convention? So I think this will be very interesting. John's really getting into this series, Ken, isn't he?
Yeah, we're going to have him write a book or something soon.
Yeah. And am I correct now? This series is going to be offered to subscribers. They'll have access to all his recordings.
Yep, as well as his John's Journal.
Oh, and yes, he also does John's Journal. So, in addition to that, so I'm going to go ahead and start this video of COS Basics, episode number 9. Once the video completes, then that will be the end of our broadcast for this evening. So, Ken, do we have any comments or questions that we need to address tonight?
Nope, not tonight. It's been pretty quiet. I think people have taken down the addresses of the websites that we've provided, and I've just been sitting back and listening. We've got no comments again tonight at this point.
Okay. All right. Well, Ken, thanks a lot, and appreciate coming on and helping out here. And we'll see John Ackerman here with COS Basics, and that'll be it for us. So everyone, have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good week. Take care.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana. In this ongoing series of COS Basics, today I want to answer the very basic question, why call an Article 5 convention? Why even do this? Well, the simple answer is we need to bring power back to the people and to the states where it belongs. As you know, the first clause of Article 5 says that Congress, whenever it deems it necessary, will propose amendments upon the vote of 2/3 of both houses, and they'll propose amendments to the several states. Well, do you think, in your right mind, do you think that Congress will ever propose amendments to do these 3 things? Limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, impose fiscal restraints. If Congress wanted to restrain itself fiscally, it already would. And third, place term limits on federal officials, including themselves. Do you think in your wildest dreams that Congress would ever do any one of these 3 things? And right now, simply because Congress has abdicated its authority to write the laws, its authority to legislate, the situation we have is that unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. are allowed to make sweeping decisions that impact millions of Americans, including you and me. And as far as anybody can tell, the only way to stop this is to have an Article 5 convention to limit the scope and reach of federal government and to impose fiscal restraints and to set term limits for federal officials. So, this whole thing all boils down to one simple question. Who do you think should decide what's best for you and your family? You or the feds? Well, here in Convention of States, we'd vote for the American people every time. And that is why we need to call an Article 5 convention.